I'm currently navigating an incredibly challenging and emotionally tumultuous situation, one that I never thought I'd have to face. It all began against the backdrop of what seemed like a successful and fulfilling life. I was juggling a full-time job in a lucrative industry, earning a comfortable six-figure salary, all while serving in the National Guard. Physically, I was in great shape, and I even managed to build my own house on a small farm, a project that filled me with pride. The relationship side of my life was equally significant. I had been with my partner for 11 years, and we took the step to get married just 2 years ago. We were in the process of planning to start a family, a dream we both shared. But then, the unimaginable happened. During my combat deployment, which kept me away for an extended period of over 6 months, I stumbled upon a shocking discovery. It was as though the ground had shifted beneath my feet. I learned that during my absence, my wife had an affair with the man she had hired to fix our fence. What stung even more was the realization that they had engaged in unprotected intimacy multiple times, and she had developed strong feelings for him. They shared experiences and emotions that she had never shared with me before. It was as if she had found the small-town cowboy she had always longed for, a persona I couldn't possibly embody. I had been living a life far removed from that image, and now I was grappling with the painful truth that she had found something in someone else that she couldn't find in me. What makes the situation even more complex is that my wife remains completely unaware that I know the full extent of their infidelity. Her behavior has been undeniably strange since I returned home. She claims she lived alone for a year, adjusting to my absence, but deep down, I can't help but believe that the real reason she's still with me is that I never left her, even when I discovered the betrayal. The question now is how to proceed, how to navigate the wreckage of trust and love that has been shattered by this shocking revelation. I find myself in a situation that's beyond anything I could have ever imagined. It's difficult to make sense of how everything has unraveled. I've always taken pride in being a responsible provider and protector, and yet my wife chose to have an affair with a younger, attractive cowboy who, to make matters more complicated, is already married with kids and apparently sleeps with clients. The shock and pain run deep because my wife discussed starting a family with this other man, planning a life together, and even talked about having kids. Meanwhile, she's leading this double life, pretending that everything between us is perfectly fine. It's a painful paradox to witness her making plans for our future, like our planting season and buying more chickens, while she continues to deceive me on such a profound level. It's been incredibly difficult to maintain my composure throughout all of this. The military taught me to be stoic and tough, but I've reached a breaking point. I've confided in my Catholic best friend, sharing every detail of this heartbreaking situation with him. He believes in trying to salvage the relationship, but I'm beginning to lean toward filing for divorce and ending this chapter of my life. I'm convinced that even remaining friends seems impossible at this point, so I've taken the initial steps by setting up meetings with 2 lawyers to begin the process of ending our marriage. What makes this situation even more emotionally taxing is my suspicion that my wife may lack remorse for her actions, leading me to wonder if she might be a sociopath. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to secure any in-person therapy sessions yet, as the earliest appointments are still over 3 weeks away, which is incredibly frustrating given the urgency of the situation. Just recently, I mustered the courage to confide in my mother and my closest friends. It was an emotionally challenging conversation, but their support and understanding have been a lifeline. I haven't confronted my wife about my knowledge of her affair yet, but I'm making preparations to do so. In just 2 days, I have legal consultations scheduled to begin the divorce process, as it seems increasingly clear that this relationship cannot be salvaged. The situation has escalated significantly, and I've taken some decisive steps to confront my wife about her affair. I decided to hire a private investigator, and the information that surfaced was nothing short of alarming. The man involved in the affair has multiple aliases, a suspended license, and a prior conviction. He's 28 years old, married with 2 children, and shockingly, he lives just a mere 15 minutes away from our home. Last night, my emotional turmoil reached a breaking point. I experienced a panic attack and woke up in tears while she slept beside me. When I apologized for my distress, she suggested that it might be related to workout supplements or something I picked up during my overseas deployment. I couldn't help but wonder if she was intentionally manipulating me or if she genuinely had no idea about the extent of the situation. The next day, I woke up after working the night shift at the refinery. My private investigator had informed me that she had lunch with this man at Cadoba while I was sleeping, despite her earlier claim of being out shopping. Confronting her about this blatant lie became inevitable. I had carefully planned to do so on her birthday, as I wanted to be in control of the situation and ensure closure on my terms. The day arrived, and it was surprisingly beautiful, considering the turmoil that was about to unfold. I woke up early, strangely calm, and prepared myself for the difficult conversation ahead. A long and strenuous workout helped clear my head. As my wife came home in the early evening, she looked radiant and excited. She had spent the day shopping and making herself look beautiful for her big day. I handed her a beautifully wrapped box, and her eyes sparkled with anticipation as she tore it open. The disappointment and shock on her face were undeniable when she found the neatly folded divorce papers inside. I mustered the strength to tell her about the affair, the involvement with the cowboy, and the countless lies that had built up over time. Each word I uttered felt like a heavy blow to her stomach. She collapsed, crying and pleading for forgiveness, but it was painfully clear that it was too late for reconciliation. The moment her parents called to wish her a happy birthday, I decided to lay everything bare. It was a gut-wrenching decision, but I knew it was the right thing to do. As they congratulated her on her special day, I couldn't bear the weight of the lies any longer. I began to tell them the painful truth, and all I heard on the other end was my mother-in-law's anguished screams. It was a devastating moment, and I knew there was no turning back. I had made up my mind to make her infidelity public. I sent emails to her family, friends, and colleagues, providing them with evidence of her betrayal. I was done protecting her reputation when she had shattered my trust so profoundly. The shock in her eyes was unmistakable as she answered call after call, her sobs and apologies filling the room. It was far from the birthday celebration she had envisioned. Finally, it was time for the last part of my plan. I swung open the front door, and right there on the porch were all her belongings. She was no longer welcome in our home. Her begging turned into loud cries, but I remained resolute. She had to gather her things and leave. A few days later, her sister and family began to gaslight me, placing the blame on me for the situation. They dismissed the fact that she had engaged in unprotected contact with another man, attributing it to my emotional unavailability. My wife even went as far as telling the cowboy's wife that everything was fabricated. Her family seemed to prioritize her over me, implying that I wasn't considered part of their family. They sided with her instead of helping us heal. Despite suggestions of individual therapy and working things out, my wife remained convinced that she could manipulate me into staying. In the midst of this emotional turmoil, she signed the divorce paperwork this morning, and I filed it. We had a lengthy conversation where she expressed a strong desire to repair our marriage, rating it at a 10 out of 10. She promised to make a sincere effort over the next 89 days to demonstrate her commitment. However, I couldn't find it in me to care anymore. It's been a few weeks now, and her calls and texts come less frequently. I've heard from mutual friends that she's not doing well, that she's miserable, alone, and filled with regret. She's reportedly searching for houses in Texas and attempting to transfer with her company. Today, on May 12th, the divorce has been finalized. marking the end of a painful chapter in both our lives. The aftermath of my divorce has brought significant changes to both of our lives. I ended up keeping the house while she made the decision to move to Texas and change jobs. Throughout this entire process, she has shown no remorse and has never taken responsibility for the destruction of our life together. Returning home from my challenging deployment in the Middle East to a situation that ultimately led to divorce was even more difficult to bear. These past few months since my return have unquestionably been the toughest period of my life. Every story has two sides, but this specific situation completely shattered me as a man. It felt like it broke me down to my very core, testing the foundation of who I am. I've had to rediscover my vulnerability and rely on the faith I found overseas as a source of strength. For that, I am profoundly grateful. Understanding why people commit hurtful actions or betray others has been a challenging question that I still don't have answers to. However, I've come to believe that everything happens for a purpose, even if that purpose was to show me that building a family and life with a specific person wasn't the intended path for me. My faith, the unwavering support of my closest friends from the academy, my friends and family back home, and the constant check-ins from the men and women I deployed with have been my lifelines during these dark moments. To those who consistently called and texted me during my darkest hours, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude. Your support meant the world to me. Now, it's time for a new chapter, a fresh beginning with someone who genuinely desires to create those stories alongside me. This experience has reshaped my perspective on life and relationships, and I'm hopeful for what the future holds.